Okay, so in this video we're going to be doing these in-class graphing problems that I just gave you. Okay, so anyway, what does the variable m stand for in the slope-intercept formula? Well, first of all, the slope-intercept formula is y equals mx plus b. That's the general form that it goes into. Y equals mx plus b, slope-intercept. So m, okay, that's the slope. So that it stands for the word slope, actually, okay? And what does b stand for? And that's the y-intercept, okay? So m, so here we have a formula now, all right? Our formula is y equals 3x minus 6. Okay, well, the question is, what's the slope? Well, the slope is going to be this number right before the x. So that's 3. And the y-intercept is this number here, and we want to pay attention to the sign as well. That's negative 6. So if we had this graphing paper here, I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line down here. Okay, here's my y-axis. And let's say here is my x-axis. Okay, here's x, here's y. All right, now I can count down. That's 0, 0, 1, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. Here is my y-intercept. Okay, now that's where it crosses the y-axis. Now I can give that this point an x and a y coordinate. Well, what's the x coordinate? Well, the x coordinate, okay, is, well, what is it? It's 0. All right, because here you follow this up, all right, it's there, but on y it's negative 6. Okay, so this point is, all right, so that negative 6 is really 0, negative 6. Okay, so that's good. Now, what if I wanted to figure out what the x-intercept is, though? Where does it cross the x-axis? Well, there's a couple ways I can do this. If I know what the formula, what the slope is, well, I can go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1. And I can go up 3 and over 1. So it's going to cross right here. And I could label that point as well. What is this now? Well, x is equal to 2, and y is equal to 0. Okay? So whenever a line crosses an axis, one of the points is going to be 0. For the y-axis, x will be 0. For the x-axis, y will be 0. Something important to know. Okay, but so I used the slope, and I figured that out. But this was a very easy slope to use. Okay, there's another way I could have figured out what the x-intercept would be, and that would be to use this formula. Okay, so what I can do here is, and I even gave you a hint, set y to 0. All right, so what if I set y to 0 here? I'd say 0 equals 3x minus 6. Well, when y is equal to 0, I'm going to get my x-intercept. So if I just solve this for x now, I'll get this. I should end up with the number 2. So how would I do this? If 0 equals 3x minus 6, I'm going to add 6 to both sides. So now I get 6 equals 3x. Well, I want to get x by itself. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And that becomes 2 equals x. There it is, right there. X equals 2. That is the x-intercept. And I could give it the point pair 2, 0. Okay? So we took our slope and our intercept, and we were able to figure out that this line should go through something like this. Okay? All right? But we were also able to mathematically calculate what the x-intercept was. Okay? Great. So now what we're going to do, and that's something I might ask you on a test. Now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of do the reciprocal in a way. Okay? So you notice that one of the points was 0, negative 6. The other point was 2, 0. Well, look, I'm going to give you those 2 points, and I'm going to ask you to give me this formula back. If I give you 2 points, you should be able to derive the formula, the slope-intercept formula, specific to those 2 points. So um, when we do this next step, we should end up with this. Okay? We started with this here, and we ended up with these point pairs. Now I'm going to give you these point pairs. I want you to give me the formula. All right? So we're going to do this in two steps. We're going to first calculate the slope using this formula. And then we're going to calculate the y-intercept using these two steps. Okay? So let's do it. So first of all, the order, this was the first point, this was the first point pair, this is the second point pair, and you got to leave them in that order. This was the first x, so I'm going to call this x1, and this was the first y, I'm going to call that y1, and this is x2, and this is y2, okay? 0 is y2, 2 is x2, negative 6 is y1, x is 0. Why is that important? Because we're going to be using this right here in just a second. So, step A, okay? M, that's the slope, is defined as the rise over the run, change in y over change in x, delta y, which means change in y, delta x, change in x, or y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. These all mean exactly the same thing. They're different ways of expressing slope. But we're going to calculate this substituting these numbers in, okay? So M equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, great. So now we can start to substitute those numbers in. So you might be able to just take this list right here and say, oh, that's y2, that goes there, that's y1, that goes there. Okay, this is x2, that goes there, this is x1, that goes there. If you get a little confused by that, maybe you want to start a little list over here. You could say y2, y1, x2, x1, and then we can conveniently stick those in there. So y2 was here, that's 0. What was y1? Negative 6. What was x2? That was 2. What was x1? Oh, that was 0. So now I'm just going to stick those numbers up here, okay? So, okay, let's do that. y2 was 0 minus, because it says do minus, y1, negative 6. I'm going to put that in parentheses. Divided by, what's x2? X2 was 2 minus, what's x1? 0. So okay, so 0 minus negative 6 really just becomes 0 plus 6 over 2 minus 0, which really becomes 6 over 2, which really becomes 3. Okay, so our slope, M, equals 3. And we've now got, oh, look at that. Here, y equals 3x minus 6. We calculated the slope. Okay, that's great. Okay, so that's good. Oh, geez, what's that doing there? Okay, now, we calculated our slope. The next step is to calculate our y-intercept. So we should end up with negative 6. So what I'm going to do here now is, I'm going to, well, first I'm going to scroll this down just a touch. Give myself a little more room down here. All right. So what we have now is that if we were to write this formula out, we have y equals 3 times x, all right? Okay, plus b, okay? So we've got 3 variables here, okay? This is what we're going to be looking for. B is the y-intercept. We're looking for the y-intercept now, okay? So I've got, well, wait a minute. I got 3 variables here. I got a b, I got an x, I got a y. How am I ever going to solve that? Well, I'm going to grab one of these point pairs and substitute those numbers in for y and x, okay? If I do that, I can solve for b. So first thing I'm going to do is, you can do this a couple different ways, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for b first. So I'm going to subtract 3x from this side and 3x from this side, and I get y minus 3x equals B. I could rewrite that. B equals y minus 3x, just so I get the B on the other side. Okay? So this is my formula I'm going to use now. Okay? So I'm going to use that formula now. I solved the slope-intercept formula for B. That was the first step, okay, of part B. So here we go. Let me write that over here. B equals y minus 3x. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 points. I'm going to substitute them in there. B equals, well, what's the value of y in these 2 points? Oh, y is -6. -6 minus 3. What's the value of x is 0. I'm going to put that in parentheses. So what's b equal to? B equals -6 minus, what's 3 times 0? 0. So b equals -6 minus 0? -6. Wait a minute. All right. And what was our original formula? Oh, we calculated the slope was 3, and we just calculated the y-intercept b, and there it is. Okay? So now we're essentially done. But before we move on and write our formula, what if you'd chosen to use this point pair? Well, let's see what that would have looked like. B equals y minus 3x. Well, let's substitute 2 and 0 in instead of 0 and -6. B equals, now you only have to do one of these. Doesn't matter. I'm just trying to show you could have used either. So what was, y was 0. Let's put a 0 in for y. Oh, God. Yeah, okay. I pressed a little button on my stylus. Okay, B equals, what's y? Okay, y is 0 minus 3 times x. What's x? X is 2. So B equals 0 minus 6. B equals -6. Look, I got the same number. So at this point now I can just write my formula. The formula is y equals mx plus b. Now I can substitute my values that I calculated. M was 3, so that's 3x plus, oh, it's -6, which really is y equals 3x minus 6, and that takes us back to the beginning of the problem, y equals 3x minus 6. And you should expect that I might ask you to do all of this on a test.